All right, so we're back and ready to dive into some serious NBA action. The Miami Heat, they just pulled off a trade that's sending shockwaves through the league.
Yeah, this is a big one.
We're talking Jimmy Butler traded away, a total shakeup. We've got this awesome article from the Miami Herald, and it's packed with player reactions, insider info, the whole 9 yards.
I'm ready to break it all down.
Let's do it. This isn't just your average trade, though, right?
Oh, no, not at all. This deal involved 4 teams. Miami, of course, Golden State, then you've got Utah, and even Detroit got in on the action.
Oh, wow, 4 teams. That's a lot of moving pieces. So remind me again, who are the key players involved here?
Okay, so the big name heading out is Jimmy Butler. He's going to Golden State.
Right, and coming into Miami.
The Heat are welcoming Andrew Wiggins, P.J. Tucker, and Kyle Anderson to the team.
Okay, so a bit of a swap there. But what about Josh Richardson? I heard he was involved too, right?
You're right. As part of this whole 4-team shuffle, Josh Richardson ended up being traded to the Detroit Pistons.
Man, the front office must have been working overtime to put all this together.
Oh, absolutely. This wasn't just about raw talent. It was like a high-stakes chess game with the salary cap.
Speaking of reactions, can you believe Kevin Love found out about the trade from a fan during the game?
I know, right? The Miami Herald article really captures the whirlwind of emotions these players went through. Like, imagine you're trying to focus on the game and boom, some fan in the stands tells you about a major trade.
Talk about a curveball.
No kidding. And Bam Adebayo, he even said, when you hear news like that, it's a shift because it's like, wow.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it threw them off a bit, even if they tried to stay focused on the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, these are life-changing moments for these players,
Yeah.
and it all happened so suddenly and so publicly.
The article also mentions that after the trade was announced, there was this sense of like relief and excitement in the locker room. Terry Rozier even said it felt like this huge weight had been lifted.
Makes total sense when you think about the weeks leading up to the trade. All that drama with Butler's trade request, the suspensions, it must have been a huge distraction for the team. You know, like when you're facing uncertainty at work or even in a personal project, and then finally that decision is made, that relief, that's what the Heat players are probably feeling right now.
Yeah, like they can finally just breathe again and focus on the game. So let's talk about individual player reactions for a minute. Kevin Love's comment about Wiggins being a Heat guy, that really caught my attention. He seems to think Wiggins will fit right in with the team's culture.
What's interesting there is that Love and Wiggins, they've got history. They were both part of a trade, like over a decade ago.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a reunion, adds another layer to the whole story.
Wow, a reunion after all these years. And we can't forget Nikola Jovic. He expressed gratitude towards Butler for his guidance, but also acknowledged that it was time for Butler to move on.
Yeah, it really highlights how these situations are just, so full of mixed emotions. Players develop relationships, they learn from each other, but they also have their own goals, their own ambitions.
It's bittersweet for sure. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about what these new players bring to the court. Starting with Andrew Wiggins, he's a proven scorer, but how do his stats and style compare to Butler's? How will that change the Heat's game plan?
That's the big question. On paper, Wiggins seems like the perfect fit to replace Butler, right? He's averaged around 20 points a game throughout his career. He knows how to score.
Okay, so he's got the points, but...
But their playing styles are pretty different. Butler's known for his all-around game, strong on both ends of the floor. Wiggins, he's primarily been a scorer. The key for him will be adapting to the Heat's system, which is all about defense and teamwork.
So it sounds like he might have to evolve his game a bit to really succeed in Miami.
Exactly. Now, P.J. Tucker, he's a familiar face for Heat fans. Remember a couple years ago? He was key in their playoff run.
Oh, for sure. What does he bring to the table this time around?
Well, with Butler gone, the Heat need that toughness, that experience, and Tucker brings it. He's known for his tough defense and those clutch plays. Think back to the 2022 playoffs. Remember those crucial three-pointers?
Yeah.
That relentless defense, Heat fans certainly haven't forgotten.
Yeah, the energy he brings is contagious.
Plus, he can be a real leader for the younger players.
It's like having another coach on the court.
Exactly. Now, Kyle Anderson, he's a bit more of a wild card, versatile player, but it's not clear how he'll fit into Coach Spoelstra's rotation.
What stands out to you about Anderson's game, and how do you see him contributing?
He's a good playmaker, and
Yeah.
he can contribute in a lot of ways, that's for sure. But yeah, how Coach Spoelstra uses him, that'll be interesting to see. Will he come off the bench? Could he even earn a starting spot?
So many questions. But we can't forget about the money side of things. This trade has major salary cap implications for the Heat.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's unpack that. The trade actually pushes Miami above the luxury tax line, which is a pretty big deal. Pat Riley, he's usually hesitant to go over that limit, but this move shows they're willing to invest to stay competitive.
You got to think about it from Riley's perspective, right? He's basically going all in. This is a high-risk, high-reward move because exceeding that luxury tax, it comes with penalties. It's a gamble.
Are we saying this is a sign of desperation from the Heat?
I wouldn't say desperation, more like a calculated risk. They want that championship, and they're willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
But now the question is, what other moves might they make to, balance the books and solidify the roster? More trades before the deadline, maybe.
That's the million-dollar question. The deadline is coming up fast, so we'll have to see what Riley has up his sleeve. He's always got something brewing.
He's definitely known for those shrewd moves. This trade has definitely turned things upside down in Miami, and it'll be fascinating to watch how it all plays out.
So we're talking about Pat Riley making some bold moves with this trade, and yeah, it definitely impacts the Heat's salary cap situation. It's a risky move for sure, but it shows they're serious about winning. But thinking long term, how will this trade affect the team going forward?
Right, that's the big question, isn't it? We've talked about each player individually, but how are they going to work together as a team? Will this make the Heat stronger in the long run, or will it backfire? Lots of people are wondering about that.
Exactly. So let's look at how these new players might fit in with the guys who are already there. We've talked about Wiggins being a good scorer, but how will he work with Adebayo and Harrow? Those are the Heat stars right now.
Well, Adebayo, he dominates in the paint, and Harrow, he's become this really exciting scorer. Adding Wiggins could create a really powerful offensive trio. The key is finding that chemistry, that magic that makes each player better and helps them play together as a unit. And the Heat system really relies on players moving the ball and moving themselves, so Wiggins will need to adjust to that.
It's not just about individual talent, then. It's about how those talents work together.
You got it. And then there's P.J. Tucker, right? He brings that veteran presence, that toughness on defense, and he already knows the Heat's culture, remember? He was a big part of their playoff run in 22.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Plus having another coach out there guiding the team, especially when things get intense. Do you think his experience will be enough to make up for losing Butler's defense, though?
That's a good point. Butler was such an intense defender. It'll be interesting to see if Tucker can step up and fill that gap. And what about Kyle Anderson? How do you think he fits into the Heat's plans?
Anderson's an interesting one. He's a versatile player, but it's not clear how Coach Spoelstra will use him. Will he come off the bench? Could he even start? Lots of possibilities there. We'll have to wait and see.
Lots of questions about how this is all going to shake out. But we can't forget the financial side of things either. This trade has really messed with the Heat's salary cap.
Oh, for sure. Miami's now above that luxury tax line, and that limits what they can do going forward. They might have to get creative to stay competitive and manage their money at the same time.
So are they stuck with this group of players then, or could there be more roster changes?
Well, that's the thing about the NBA, right? It's always changing. They might try to make some moves to fix that salary cap issue, but it seems like they're going to give this new roster a chance to gel and see what they can do.
It's a gamble, but sometimes those pay off big time. But even with this new lineup, it's not like a guaranteed path to the championship, is it?
Definitely not. The Eastern Conference, it's a beast. The Heat are going to have to fight hard against teams like the Celtics, the Bucks, and the Sixers. Those teams are all tough. What do you think? How do the Heat stack up against that kind of competition?
It's going to be a battle, that's for sure. Those other teams have all been making moves to get better, too. The Celtics, they've got so much depth. The Bucks, with Giannis, they're always dangerous. And the Sixers, well, they have Embiid, and he's playing like an MVP. It'll be interesting to see how the Heat match up against those powerhouses.
It's like a chess game.
Okay.
Each team is trying to outsmart the other, make his strategic moves, and the Heat are right in the middle of it.
And speaking of strategy, the trade deadline is coming up fast. Do you think the Heat will make any other moves before then? Maybe try to add some depth to certain positions or try to free up some salary cap space?
It's definitely possible. The trade deadline is always crazy. And Pat Riley, he loves those big, bold moves. I wouldn't be surprised if he's got something else planned.
So Heat fans, stay tuned because this is far from over. There might be some more surprises coming, but beyond the trades and the roster changes, let's talk about how this affects the players mentally.
Right? That's something we don't always talk about, but it's so important. These guys are people too,
Yeah.
with their own lives, their own hopes and dreams, and All of that is getting shaken up. It's a huge adjustment.
It's easy to just focus on the stats and the strategy, but we can't forget that real people are affected by this. Their lives are being turned upside down.
Exactly. Imagine being taken away from your team, your city, your friends, your routine. That's a lot to handle.
The Miami Herald article talked about some of those first reactions from the players, and you could tell they were feeling all kinds of things. Relief, excitement, uncertainty, maybe even some sadness.
It's a whole mix of emotions. On one hand, there's the excitement of a fresh start, a chance to prove yourself somewhere new. But then there's the sadness of leaving your teammates, your routine, all of that.
Like starting a new chapter in a book. You're excited about what's coming next, but you're a little sad to leave the last chapter behind.
That's a perfect way to put it. And for some players, this change will be easier than for others. Some guys are more adaptable, more open to new things. Others might have a harder time adjusting. How do you think the new players will fit into the Heat's culture? And how will the guys who are already there welcome them?
That's a good question. The Heat have a very strong team culture. They value teamwork and accountability. That can be good, but it can also be tough for new players to adjust to.
And it's not just about the new guys,
Yeah.
right? The players who are already on the Heat, they're going through changes too. They lost a key teammate in Butler, and now they have to adjust to these new personalities, new ways of playing.
It's almost like they have to start over in a way, rebuild that chemistry and figure out who they are as a team now.
And that takes time and patience. They have to be willing to adjust. The Heat have a history of overcoming challenges, of doing better than people expect. But this is a new kind of test for them, and it'll be interesting to see how they respond.
We were just talking about how all these changes are affecting the players on a personal level. It's easy to get caught up in the game itself and forget that these guys have lives outside of basketball.
Absolutely, and that's where leadership really matters. Coach Spoelstra, the whole Heat organization, they have a big role to play here. They need to help these players get through this transition, both on and off the court.
Yeah, it's more than just the X's and O's now. It's about making these guys feel comfortable, helping them build those relationships with their new teammates.
Exactly. It takes time to build trust and create an environment where everyone feels like they can be themselves, right? And remember, the players who were already on the Heat, they're going through changes too. They lost a teammate in Butler, and now they have to figure out how to play with these new guys. How do you think they'll approach all of this?
Well, the Heat have always been a team that emphasizes teamwork and accountability. I think that will be really important now. It's about everyone working together, putting the team first.
And that's what makes this whole situation so interesting. It's a real test for them. Will they be able to come together as a team, or will they fall apart? We'll have to see.
It's like a whole new chapter for the team, not just for the players who were traded, but for the entire organization. They have to figure out who they are now.
And that's what's so great about sports, right? You get to see this kind of evolution happen. The wins and losses, the struggles, the triumphs, it's all part of it.
And for Miami Heat fans, this is a pretty exciting chapter. This team has always been about defying the odds, exceeding expectations. They've faced tough times before and always come out stronger.
This trade has definitely shaken things up. It could lead to a championship, or it could be a total flop.
But that's what makes sports so fun to watch, right? You never know what's going to happen. The drama, the unpredictability, the chance to see something amazing.
Absolutely. The Miami Heat are on a new path now, and we're all along for the ride. It's a story that's still being written. Will this be the era that brings them a championship?
Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure. This Miami Heat team is full of surprises. They've overcome challenges before, so who knows what they can achieve with this new lineup. It's going to be a fun ride. So Heat fans, buckle up. This is just the beginning.
Well said. Keep your eyes on the Miami Heat. This team has a lot of potential, and I think this is just the start of something really exciting.
And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the Miami Heat's blockbuster trade. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.